Every day, a young mechanic walked past a high-end restaurant on his way home from the garage. He was tired, his hands were stained with oil, and his red overalls were covered in the dust of 1,000 engines. He carried the weight of his family's survival on his aching shoulders. He never stopped to eat at that restaurant because he couldn't even afford a glass of water from their menu. But one day, everything changed. As the sun began to set, he heard a sound that cut through the city noise, the sound of heart-wrenching crying. On the cold pavement, he saw a woman in a pristine white suit, trembling and hurt, her skin scorched by scalding water. He did not know who she was. He did not know the billionaire's blood that ran through her veins or the danger she was fleeing. But what he did that night changed both their lives forever. Who was this mysterious woman in white? And why, just weeks later, would 5 black SUVs pull up to his humble house to tear her away by force? If you're just tuning into this channel, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to share with your friends and family, and tell us where you're watching from in the comment section. Nathan stood over the open hood of a battered truck, his breath heavy with the smell of old oil and burnt rubber. His red overalls, once vibrant, were now a map of his labor, darkened by grease stains that refused to wash out and thin at the knees from hours spent on the cold concrete floor of the garage. At 28, his muscles were corded like steel cables, but his eyes held the weariness of a man twice his age. Every bolt he tightened and every engine he timed was a desperate prayer for survival. In the grueling heat of the Lagos afternoon, the metal tools burned his palms, but he couldn't stop. He couldn't afford to. When the sun finally began to dip, Nathan wiped his blackened hands on a rag that was just as dirty as his skin. He tucked a few crumpled Naira notes, his meager daily earnings, deep into his pocket, guarding them as if they were gold. This was the medicine for his mother, Mary, whose cough had grown more hollow with each passing week, and the tuition for his sister, Victory, who studied by candlelight, dreaming of a life far away from the smell of gasoline. As he walked home, his boots felt like lead. He passed the gleaming glass windows of the Golden Plate, where the city's elite laughed behind air-conditioned walls. He didn't envy their food, he only envied their peace. He was a man who lived on the edge of a breaking point, a mechanic who could fix any machine but didn't know how to repair the crushing poverty that threatened to swallow his family whole. The world felt heavy on his shoulders, an engine perpetually on the verge of stalling. The neon sign of the Golden Plate restaurant buzzed like a relentless insect, casting a mocking glow over the sidewalk as Nathan trudged past. His red overalls were heavy with the day's grease, a sharp contrast to the polished marble and crystal chandeliers visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, the wealthy laughed over plates of food that cost more than Nathan's monthly rent. He usually kept his head down, but tonight, a sharp, shattering sound made him stop. Through the glass, Nathan saw a woman in a crisp white suit, Anita, stumbling backward. A wealthy customer, draped in expensive silk and fury, had just slammed a cup of tea onto the floor. The woman wasn't satisfied with the noise. In a flash of mindless cruelty, she grabbed a pot of scalding water and flung it toward Anita. A stifled scream reached Nathan's ears as the steam rose from Anita's arm, her white sleeve instantly clinging to her reddening skin. Before Anita could even grasp the extent of her pain, the restaurant manager appeared. He didn't check the burn or offer a cloth. Instead, he pointed a trembling, angry finger at the door. His voice, muffled by the glass but clear in its venom, barked a series of insults. He was choosing the customer's ego over his employee's safety. Moments later, the heavy glass doors swung open, and Anita was pushed out into the cold night air. "Don't ever come back," the manager spat before retreating into the warmth. Anita collapsed onto the dirty pavement, her white suit now stained with tea and tears. Nathan watched the Golden Plate go back to its high-class clinking, completely indifferent to the broken soul they had just discarded in the dust. The journey to the small rusted gate house felt longer than usual as Nathan supported Anita, her white suit now stained with the soot of the roadside. When they finally crossed the threshold, the scent of wood smoke and dried herbs greeted them. Mary, sitting in her usual wooden chair, gasped as her son entered with a trembling woman. "Nathan, my son, what has happened?" she cried, her voice thick with motherly instinct. Nathan gently helped Anita onto a clean mat. "She was hurt, Mama. They threw hot water on her at the restaurant," he explained, his voice tight with lingering anger. Without needing another word, the household sprang into action. Victory rushed to the corner of the room, fetching a basin of cool water and a clean cloth, her eyes wide with empathy for the beautiful stranger who looked like a fallen angel in their humble dwelling. Mary reached for a small clay pot on the shelf, scooping out a thick, green herbal paste she had prepared from neem leaves and shea butter. With hands that shook from age but moved with the precision of a healer, she began to apply the soothing mixture to the angry red burns on Anita's skin. Anita winced, but as the cooling herbs took effect, her breathing finally slowed. "You are safe here, my daughter," Mary whispered, stroking Anita's hair. "In this house, we may not have gold, but we have peace." Anita looked around the dimly lit room, seeing the flickering kerosene lamp and the kind faces of these strangers who had given her more dignity in an hour than she had received in months. For the first time since her father's death, the crushing weight in her chest began to lift. She was no longer a hunted heiress. She was a guest held in the arms of kindness. As the moon hung low over their small home, the flickering light of a single kerosene lamp cast long shadows against the walls. Anita sat at the wooden table, her hands trembling as she looked at Nathan, Mary, and Victory. The silence was heavy with a secret she had carried since the night she arrived in her scorched white suit. Finally, she took a deep breath, her voice barely a whisper but steady with the weight of her truth. She wasn't just a waitress named Anita, she was Anita Morris, the only biological child of the late Matthew Morris. Nathan leaned forward, his grease-stained hands resting on his knees as he listened in stunned silence. Anita spoke of the glittering world of wealth that had become a golden cage after her father's sudden passing. She described the chilling transformation of her stepmother, Amara, whose grief had been a mask for a predator's greed. Amara hadn't just wanted the Morris Empire, she wanted Anita gone. Anita recounted the terrifying night she overheard Amara discussing a plan to poison her tea. A plan that forced her to flee into the night with nothing but the clothes on her back and the hope of disappearing into the city's shadows. "She has the lawyers, the police, and the power," Anita said, tears welling in her eyes as she looked at the humble family that had risked everything to shield her. "If she finds out I'm alive, she will come for me." Mary reached out, covering Anita's hand with her own, her gaze fierce and protective. In that moment, the humble room felt smaller, the walls thinner, as the realization set in that they were now standing in the path of a billionaire's wrath. Nathan looked at his sisters and mother, then back at Anita, his heart hardening with a new kind of resolve. He was just a mechanic, but he knew one thing: he would never let Amara's darkness touch the light they had found. The peace of the village was shattered by a sound that didn't belong. The synchronized roar of high-performance engines and the crunch of gravel under heavy tires. Nathan was behind the house, washing the grease from his arms, when 5 midnight black SUVs screeched to a halt, surrounding their humble home like predators encircling a nest. Dust choked the air as heavy doors slammed in unison. Before Nathan could reach the front door, the house was swarmed. Men in tactical gear and dark glasses moved with cold, military precision. Mary screamed as they kicked the door off its hinges, and Victory was pushed aside as she tried to block the entrance. Anita stood in the center of the room, her face turning as white as her suit, the moment of peace she had found in their home evaporating in an instant. "No. Leave her alone." Nathan roared, charging toward the men, his mechanic's muscles tensed with a desperate fury. But he was met with the butt of a heavy rifle to his ribs. He collapsed into the dirt, the air leaving his lungs in a painful wheeze. Through blurred vision, he watched as 2 guards grabbed Anita by the arms. She didn't go quietly. She fought with the strength of a woman who knew that returning to that mansion meant a slow death. "Nathan, help me," she cried out, her voice breaking as they dragged her toward the lead SUV. Nathan struggled to rise, his fingers clawing at the earth, but a heavy boot pressed his head back into the dust. He watched helplessly as the doors slammed shut, the engines revved, and the convoy sped away, leaving nothing behind but a cloud of red dust and the echoes of Anita's screams. The heavy iron gates of the Morris estate slammed shut with a finality that echoed like a death knell. For Anita, returning to the sprawling Leckie mansion wasn't a homecoming. It was a descent into a gilded cage. The air inside was cold, smelling of expensive lilies and old secrets, a sharp contrast to the warm earth-scented air of Nathan's village. Amara stood in the center of the marble foyer, her silk gown trailing like a serpent's tail, her eyes gleaming with a predatory triumph. "You look pathetic, Anita," Amara sneered, gesturing to the simple cotton dress Anita still wore. "Living like a peasant has clearly dulled your senses. Now, sign the papers and end this charade." Mr. Kenneth, the lawyer with the cold, calculating eyes, stepped forward, placing a stack of legal documents on the glass table. "It's a simple transfer of the estate, Miss Morris. Sign, and you can return to your little mechanic and your poverty in peace. Refuse, and you'll find that people disappear quite easily from houses this large." Anita looked at the pen, then at the bruised skin on her wrists where Amara's men had gripped her. She thought of Nathan's calloused hands, hands that fixed things rather than breaking them. She thought of Mary's prayers and Victory's laughter. They had given her a different kind of strength, one that couldn't be bought or bullied. "My father built this empire for me, not for a murderer," Anita said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her heart. She looked Amara directly in the eye and pushed the papers away. "I will never sign. You can lock the doors, but you can't steal what doesn't belong to you." Amara's face contorted with rage as she signaled the guards to drag Anita toward the upstairs rooms. As the lock turned in her door, Anita sank to the floor, her eyes landing on the antique mirror in the corner, the same one her father used to hide his most precious treasures behind. She wasn't defeated, she was just getting started. Locked within the cold marble walls of the Morris mansion, Anita felt more like a prisoner than an heiress. The air in her childhood bedroom felt heavy with the scent of Amara's expensive perfume and the lingering shadow of betrayal. Every few hours, the door would creak open, and Mr. Kenneth would enter, sliding a stack of legal documents across the mahogany desk. His voice was a rhythmic drone of threats and false promises, urging her to sign away the Morris empire to her stepmother. But Anita remained defiant. Each time she closed her eyes, she didn't see the gold-leafed ceiling. She saw Nathan's oil-stained hands and the quiet dignity of Mary's village kitchen. That memory was her armor. One evening, after Amara had screamed herself hoarse and slammed the door, Anita stood before the grand gilded floor mirror. In the dim light, she traced the intricate carvings of the frame, her fingers stumbling upon a small, unusual latch hidden behind a wooden rose. With a faint click, the glass panel swung outward, revealing a hollow space her father had once whispered about when she was a child. Inside lay a leather-bound folder and a digital recorder. Her breath hitched as she pressed play. The crackling, steady voice of Matthew Morris filled the room, a ghostly echo from the grave. "Anita, my sunshine," the recording began. "If you are hearing this, then the vultures have circled. But the truth cannot be buried." Beneath the recorder sat the original will, stamped and sealed, alongside a series of photos documenting Amara's secret dealings. This wasn't just paper. It was the key to her freedom and the weapon that would finally bring the SUVs to a permanent halt. The Golden Prison had just become a fortress of truth. The mahogany-paneled courtroom was thick with a tension that felt like a physical weight. Anita sat at the plaintiff's table, her back straight and her gaze fixed forward, no longer the broken waitress in a stained uniform, but the rightful heir of the Morris Empire. Across the aisle, Amara sat with a smirk of practiced arrogance, flanked by Mr. Kenneth, confident that her web of lies was impenetrable. The turning point came when Mr. Dennis stood, holding the yellowed parchment Anita had recovered from the hidden compartment. "Your Honor," he began, his voice echoing with the authority of justice, "we have more than just a memory. We have the truth." He presented the forensic report that analyzed the signature on the will Amara had used to seize the estate. The expert testimony was clinical and devastating. The ink on the fraudulent document was fresh, dated years after Matthew Morris had passed, and the signature was a clumsy mechanical trace. As the forensic details were read aloud, Amara's composure began to crumble. The arrogance in her eyes was replaced by a feral, cornered panic. When Mr. Dennis revealed the secret letter Matthew had written to Anita, detailing his fears of Amara's greed, the courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge leaned forward, his face a mask of stern disapproval. "The evidence is irrefutable," he declared, his gavel striking the bench with a sound like a thunderclap. As the judge ordered Amara's immediate arrest for forgery and attempted murder, two officers approached the defense table. The handcuffs clicked shut over Amara's expensive jewelry, a cold metallic reality that signaled the end of her reign of terror. Anita let out a breath she felt she had been holding for years. The war was over. The truth had finally set her free. The dust had barely settled on the road leading into the village when a familiar vehicle appeared, but this time, the tension of fear was replaced by the warmth of hope. Anita stepped out, no longer the broken waitress in a stained suit, but a woman reclaimed. Her eyes, however, searched for only one person. When she found Nathan outside the small mechanic shop, his hands still dark with grease and his red overalls worn thin, she didn't wait for him to approach. She ran to him, the distance between their two worlds vanishing in a single embrace. "I told you I would come back," she whispered against his chest. Nathan held her, his heart hammering with a mixture of disbelief and pure joy. Anita pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. Then, to the shock of the gathering villagers, she did something no one expected. She took Nathan's oil-stained hands in her own and knelt in the very dust where he had once rescued her. "Nathan, you saved my life when I had nothing. You showed me that true wealth isn't held in a bank, but in a heart that knows how to love. Will you stand by my side forever?" Tears blurred Nathan's vision as he pulled her up, his yes drowned out by the cheers of Mary and victory. Anita didn't just bring love, she brought transformation. With the Morris inheritance, the village began to breathe again. The dusty paths were paved, a modern clinic was built for mothers like Mary, and Victory finally received the scholarship she had dreamed of. Nathan remained a mechanic, but now he ran a state-of-the-art center that trained the youth of the village. They lived as a testament that one small act of kindness from a man in red overalls could indeed change the world.